Hey guys, welcome back to another Titus Diorama and Tour Reviews. Now I know it's been a while since I've posted anything on my YouTube channel, and we will cover that in just a few minutes. But first and foremost, as you probably see, there are some photos here of previous dioramas that I have built. Now, I build dioramas because I enjoy creating them. It's a hobby of mine. Another hobby of mine is collecting action figures. So it kind of goes hand in hand. Now, I'm starting a mini series with this video today on the basics of creating dioramas. This is in the hopes that this will help out other people who want to get into this hobby. Now, as I mentioned, I have taken some time away from my YouTube channel and from building and collecting. And that's mainly because I was feeling really overwhelmed and I just needed some time away. Sometimes you just need to step away from something that you love doing or you enjoy doing to kind of refocus yourself and re-energize yourself. So I'm very happy to report that I'm ready to get back to it. So today's video is going to be covering the materials and the tools that you'll need to use with those materials. As this mini series goes on, we'll also cover other stuff like making blueprints, of course, cutting, sculpting, and all that kind of other good stuff for dioramas. So let's get to it, guys. Alright guys, as you can see, I have some of the very basic tools and materials that you'll need in order to create your own dioramas. Now, before we get started, I just want to point out a lot of this stuff can be found at dollar stores, Michael's, Hobby Lobby, Walmart, Home Depot, Lowe's, Canadian Tire. It just comes down to how much money you actually want to spend in order to create your own dioramas. Now, the very first thing that you should purchase for yourself is a nice cutting mat. That's a relatively big size, so you can cut out bigger portions of foam and paper, whatever you're going to be working with. It also works well as a painting mat. When you flip it over, you can paint on the back side of it. You're going to need paint brushes, of course. You're going to need pens and pencils and eraser. You'll also need box cutters with disposable blades. You'll go through a lot of these blades. Scissors, smaller blades in order to do some detail work, tape in order to tape off areas that you're working on, a few different styles of rulers in order to draw out on your foam or do your blueprints. You're going to need at least one long metal ruler in order to use it as a straight edge to cut your foam with. And of course, a hot glue gun in some cases is very necessary. Now let's go ahead and move on to the materials. And there's a few different styles of materials that you could use. I've seen people use cardboard boxes, breaking them down and using them as their dioramas. I typically use foam, and the kind of foam that I use is the just the normal craft foam. You get in different thicknesses. You can also use poster board. You can just peel off the paper and the foam that's inside or wedged between that two sheets of paper is the same style foam as this insulation foam here. Now I typically use the insulation foam. It's about an inch thick and it comes in 2 by 2 foot panels. And I can cut those down to whatever sizes I want within 24 inches. Now, a side note, as I mentioned earlier, this foam will actually go through a lot of these blades. So you want to make sure you have a lot of extra blades for this. You can sharpen them, but they dull them very quickly. So just keep that in mind. Another thing to talk about here, and we're going to kind of move into the glue, depending on what material you're using, your glues are going to change. Now, if you're going to be making, let's say, a porch or maybe a wharf and you're using wood as your material, you could use something like super glue or carpenter's glue to glue that all together. I would not use something like this on foam because it will eat through the foam. You can use hot glue on either of these. You just have to be careful that you don't have the hot glue gun on the highest temperature because the heat will actually melt the foam. Finally, as well, you're going to be looking at different types of glue. There's some tacky glue that sets up really quick. You can use just normal, Elmer's school glue. I like Mod Podge because when it dries hard, so it means that your diorama won't be damaged as easy. And what I've actually done is I have mixed in some black paint with Mod Podge to do as my base coats when I'm getting ready to paint. Of course, you'll need many different types of paint depending on what colors you're going to be using. And if you do a lot of dioramas in this type of foam board, you're going to need, if you want to be able to break them down because they can get pretty large, you're going to need some magnets to be able to install on that foam and be able to take that diorama apart when you don't want it on display. It just makes it easier. If you have like a 2 foot by foot diorama, if you could take it apart, it makes it easier to store afterwards. Anyway, guys, I hope that this information helps you out a bit and kind of gives you a better idea. The next video we'll be talking about doing blueprints and the importance of that. But as always, guys, stay nerdy.